intimate look into the life of a coach and an athlete.
Nice. So Maria says, no shit, it was working 7 minutes ago.
Oh, good.
Oh, we're live. So typically after a race, I find that, I might feel good, but it seems like more times than not that I get injured. So basically what I do is I just kind of shut down completely. And
you do anything? Any light training?
Some core,
Okay.
but nothing else. And it seems like I'll be like, oh, I feel great, and I go out for a run, and all of a sudden, like something gets like really jacked up, and then it prolongs it. So I've just taken, I normally take like 5 days. So yesterday I was actually going to run and just work out in the way, but today I'll run and I'll run through the weekend or whatever. But I normally just kind of shut it down completely.
So you actually let stuff get in the way now?
Unfortunately, there are things that are getting in the way.
That's good.
And it was unavoidable. Yeah, no. I mean, it's like, I definitely, this is going to be like on a podcast somewhere, and like all my clients are going to hear it. Oh crap! But for probably at least like 2011 through 2013, I was completely checked out. Maria has joined the call.
Hey, there she
I
is.
figured this shit out.
What's up, Munchkin?
My internet just started working again. I came back from the pool. I'm like, all right, everything's working. I got my cool headset on, ready to go. I tried to get into the drive document, and I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong. Anyway, I'm here. Hi.
I've got to make sure I got all the naked women posters off my wall here at the office.
Yeah, notice I got a window, so you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Just see my.
Are we going to see shirtless John in the backyard?
Now he's got to work.
Yeah, what time do you go to work? 9 a.m.?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't go to. I don't have to be anywhere on Fridays.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I work from home. I know. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I work from home.
Life is so hard.
It really is. You too can do this. Just go to school for 22 years, and you too can have this life. It was totally worth it. So what's new, guys?
We were just talking about post-race emotions, going through emotional swings when you're not training after a race, and letting work get in the way.
For Maria, she's emotional all the time.
That's kind of a constant state of being, yeah. But emotions after a race, yeah. I mean, that whole kind of post Ironman blues, I guess, for you right now.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Matt says he feels pretty good, and I just said, for like a month, I tend to kind of swing back and forth, and
it's really weird because I talked to my girlfriend. I was like, okay, after a race, I haven't told you this before, but I get really, really sad, and I feel bad about myself, and I'm tired, and so I need a little support afterwards. And now, and I came back, and I'm like, this is the best I've felt in months. So.
That's awesome.
It's weird. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel like,
Yeah, well, it hasn't been. It's been a week, right?
Yeah.
But usually right now you're like, I'm so fat. I'm not doing anything. I'm so lazy. I'm just sitting around and.
You have the fat thing too, Matt?
I know he's fat.
Oh my God, you should see him too. He's skinny as a rail.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, pot kettle, please. Every time I see you, Vince, when I hug you, I'm afraid I'm gonna break you in half.
I hate to come off like I got body image issues. I don't think I got that, but you just feel like, oh, I should be. Yeah, you feel like, oh, I should be working out. It's a habit, and now I'm still getting up at 6 a.m. I'm just sitting here. Oh, it's just as hard to get up. It's harder to get up actually.
I get up. I'm just sitting here now. Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, that's good you don't have them. Hopefully you don't get them. Usually it takes me, like the first week, I usually ride a pretty good high. I start to feel a little like, oh, what am I doing with my life by right around now, it starts to hit me. And the first thing I'll do is, because, the body's not really, like, feeling it, so it's not like you can go out and, like, pound out some hard miles. Like, I'll go swim, which Vince always makes fun of. Why are you swimming?
Yeah.
So talk about the race. Matt, was this your first Ironman or no?
No, this was number 4.
Number 4, okay.
I wish it was number one. I felt a lot better about the result.
The
Um,
first one's like magic, isn't
the
it?
first one's like
Ugh.
magic. It really is. Um, yeah, and so this one, I don't know. Vince and I did this one together.
Mhm.
First time being coached by Vince, so that was good. It was a PR, so that's always good.
Whoop whoop. Well,
Yeah.
then what do you mean? I wish I felt better about the results.
Oh yeah. Well, you remember last time we talked about? I wish I would. You got across the finish line. You feel like you crushed it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't get that vibe, but
Okay.
still, it was easy. It was easy to PR, which I guess is a good thing. Um, so I don't know. I had gone home for the week before, so I was in Wisconsin all week, which is nice, with my family. I had felt really bad earlier in the week, so I think getting there early helped.
Okay.
And then just getting back into a schedule that I love routines, and so being in a routine all week, getting some training in,
Mhm.
eating good food, just sleeping well, not using an alarm, all that helped. So I felt pretty well prepped. I think Vince had known I was mentally a little off going in. I think he held back last podcast from saying things or he was worried last podcast when he talked about doubt and confidence. So
Uh,
um, I'm trying to overcome that. But yeah, so one of the race, I forgot the big scare was I forgot that special needs was like 3 blocks away from the start. So I'm standing down there in my wetsuit with my special needs bag, and I'm like, where does special needs drop off? And up at the Capitol. It's like, oh shit. So like
please, random stranger, take this
15
bag.
minutes, 15 minutes before the race, I'm sprinting up the finish line to go drop off my special needs bag. I'm like the last person there. Some volunteers meeting me halfway.
Oh,
Um,
volunteers are the best.
they were the best, and the truck hadn't left yet, so I got lucky. And then I ran on down. I forced my way through the line and got out in the water. Like people should stand there forever, so I got out in the water really quick. Um, Went out and grabbed on a kayak and held on while for 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I got out. I guess I was pretty close to the inside line, and then I just swam. It felt nice. Just one first swim.
I just swam.
Yeah,
That's a really good race plan. I'm
yeah.
gonna swim during the swim.
Vincent said go out hard, and I'd gone out hard in a half Ironman before, and oh man, I thought I was going to drown. So I didn't. I wasn't. It's a long day, so maybe I should listen to Vincent go out hard next time. Because I got caught in a giant group. It was just the entire time I was hitting somebody or getting hit by somebody. I
Yeah.
swam. I swam 105, which I thought was really good until I was like, oh man, 105, awesome. Because I thought I swam 109 last year, but actually I swam 106 last year. So I'm not sure what I was doing. So I improved by a minute, which I guess is better than not improving. But it
Well,
felt
once
really
you start
easy.
getting down into those lower numbers,
Yeah,
that you got to fight pretty hard for that minute or two.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Going from like 105 to 103, that could take like a year or two.
Hmm.
So just,
Yeah,
to take your minutes in the swimming.
yeah.
seriously.
So, so that was good. It felt easy, which I also liked. And there's a first, I really usually when I swim, I get bored or I like look up and breaststroke and um. So this
Get bored? Did you just say like you'll just breaststroke? You're bored?
yeah. I'll just get like tired of swimming. And this is
You know, you don't get bored? Hawaii. Lots of fish to see in Hawaii.
this was a lot of green. This was a lot of green and brown. But it was nice. It was a nice swim. No, it was a good swim. Water cooled off. It was good. So got out, felt great, ran through transition. I think my transition was pretty quick relative to other ones. Vince can comment on that. Um,
Well, and
but
the Wisconsin transition is like in cray-cray, right?
yeah, it's a long run. Oh, nice.
It's
Go off. No one likes a show.
I got
No.
medals back here, but they're too far away, so I have
man,
flags
you
close
just
by.
put on
you
more
want some?
medals.
Aloha,
Right.
bitches.
What
Freshy fresh.
this is all I got. This is all I got close by.
All right, are we all showing our medals? All right. Hello, medals.
Oh my God.
Keep in mind there's two of us, so they're not all mine. Okay. Wait, hold on now.
I got nothing, guys. Oh no. It's,
Getting all dressed up with my bling. All right, that's enough of this. Nobody can see this silliness. Just for the people listening that can't see this, Vince is putting on all of his lays from his Kona qualifying time, asserting his dominance in here. I'm going to go piss on my computer.
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to hike my leg over here.
Oh, Vince, did you qualify for Kona once?
Oh.
No, more than once.
Oh.
Each of those lays represents a dominant asserting time.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of us are jealous.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matt, please continue with your race report.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't qualify for Kona, otherwise I'd be wearing a lay. But maybe sometime.
You won't take that shit off, trust me.
I'd wear it to work.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah. Then I got on the bike. I had a woman's medium coat on because it was so cold. So I went out to Goodwill the day before and bought a nice, super warm coat. It felt amazing. I was really glad I did that. It's so tight. It's like I was like, wow, suffocating in it, and I could like just get my arms in air bars, and I wanted the arrow in my women's medium, so and so that helped a lot warming up, and I took that off about an hour and a half in. Just rode really easy the entire time. I think Vince said I executed well. I felt like I executed well.
Yeah,
definitely. I biked way slower than I did last year, significantly, but it felt harder, which was bad, I think. At the end, I felt pretty tired, which wasn't good. So it had me worried going into the run. You know, you kind of like in the back of your head, like, uh-oh, that shouldn't have been that hard. And then got off the bike. I had fueled well. I was feeling pretty good, like gut-wise. You know, kind of eating the same thing all day. You eat a little.
Ugh.
At the end of the bike, you're like, oh, do I have to finish this bottle, right? You know.
Seriously, I always say it feels like Sugar Plum Fairies took a shit in my mouth.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like,
got like that taste in your
yeah.
mouth.
Ugh.
Yeah. So I had that going on, and then I was like, okay. So then I started running. I felt, not great, but not bad. And held around like at 8:15, anywhere from 8:15 to 9. I was trying to push a sub 8. I never really got there, and then it just started to fade around what was that, Vince? Like mile 14, 15, somewhere around there?
Yeah, it kind of checked out in the back miles there.
Yeah, and then it started to fade pretty hard. Kept it to a walk shuffle, walking aid stations, shuffling between them. And then finished with a 4:12 marathon. So I went out with 150 and I guess came back with, that would have been 2:20. So I guess I was a little slow on the way out the first half marathon, but yeah, never really pulled through in the second half marathon. So some things we're going to try next year. We're going to eat more on the bike, I think. We're going to try to get more calories in. I think we're also going to do, Vince has threatened to do some workouts to make Ironman feel small. So next year should be a good some good painful training sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of, we should talk about your 12-hour run.
Well, we didn't. Yeah.
After we hear Vince's, we should hear Vince's.
Yeah, we should continue along with the Wisconsin theme.
He had a romantic day, I think.
He really did have a romantic day.
It's an Ironman.
So adorbs.
Aw.
Yeah, but I thought she was going to murder me, like, when I caught her, though. And that's typical, like, I start trying to talk to her, and, I was like, where's your heart rate? She's like, leave me alone, and so I'm like, all right, I know that I can get past this quick enough, and I just, she has so many problems in her run that I wanted to be there, and I wanted to diagnose it in real time. And I figured if I was there when she was, coming apart, I could kind of, try to hold her back together. And, she fell apart a lot sooner, which, thank goodness for me, because I was running her ass down pretty fast. And, but she just, she, like you, she has that exercise-induced asthma, and she was just really having a hard time breathing. So, we're running, and then we're walking, and then she'd stop, and she'd have to catch her breath because she was hyperventilating. And it just seemed like that all the way to the finish. But there's a photo that that she's going to post somewhere, and it's me standing behind her, like, and then I'm like, roar, you know, because she didn't know I was doing it, so she's like in a world of hurt. But you see my arms like over her head like that.
Photobombing her.
That's awesome.
Oh, I don't know if we clarified. Her is Vince's wife for the listeners who don't know the backstory.
And they were going to do this, and they were going to do Ironman Wisconsin together, which they did, most of it.
Yeah. She beat me out of the water by a few seconds and kicked my ass on the bike, and then
she totally kicked your butt on the bike.
I know.
Why? Because Vince goes into Ironman without a single day of training. Right?
Well, Vince put his pedals on the day before the race. He was like, you know what? I think I'm going to put this bike back together from last year. I should probably make sure that it's all put together. At least you didn't have to worry about a year's worth of wear and tear on it.
I didn't have any saddle sores. You know, going into the race, normally like my crotch is like on fire from riding. You know, this was like smooth. It was good.
Yeah.
It was a little rough. I raised my bars 3 centimeters, and that really helped with the position. But my neck is just not used to being like down in aero. But
what do you think you lost the most from just running? Like, what did you notice that was the hardest?
I'm not sure. What was the question?
Like, what was the hardest part? Not that you haven't been training. Like, you've been running, obviously, but what did you lose the most?
Well, obviously, I'm losing speed, but it didn't feel like. I mean, the swim was slow, and what I noticed is that, like some of the little muscles in my rotator cuff were, even from like my little practice swims. Mm-hmm. I was like, whoa, those muscles have not been used. That was the biggest thing I noticed. But I mean, it's just pacing the day, right? So I mean, this is like a classic example of pacing the day to your ability. So I just I didn't want to have a contact sport in the swim. So I definitely went to the right of the boat ramp, but I was up on the front line. And then while everybody was kind of swimming into the line towards the left, I kept going straight, and I just kind of stayed on the outside. Mm-hmm. And the problem is I'm pretty good at swimming, so I kept sighting on the buoys, and I kept coming in on the line. And I'm like, no, don't want to be there, don't want to get beat up.
Yeah.
And because for me it was really just long glide strokes and no strength really. Got out of the water, saw it was 115, laughed. It's like, oh my God, thought it could have been 130. Yeah. And then,
I actually thought your swim was pretty good for not swimming at all, Vince. I mean, I was like, I'm not sure I could pull out a 115 without swimming at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a faster swimmer than me generally, but I mean, even still, I mean, I was like, that's pretty good. And just, I don't know if we clarified. So Vince has been training for ultra runs, 100-milers, 100Ks, all that kind of stuff, has not swum or bike all year since last Wisconsin. Is that correct?
That is true, and I don't want to sound like a douchebag, so...
No, I mean, it's not like you haven't been training. It's not like you haven't been, I mean, you've been training. I don't think it's douchey. I just think you signed up to do this with your wife, and I think it was a good thing you were there. I mean, you weren't It's not like you went into it saying I'm gonna be in the top 5, or I'm gonna try to kick ass without training. Like
in the back of his mind, he wanted to. He's like, oh, I'm gonna finish top 5 without training.
No. I
had one of these lays.
Expectations, and knowing that I slowed down, 10%. Last year, I figured got to be at least that. But I actually feel very fit, and running definitely translates. Well, what is it like? I think it might be like Gordo and Joe Friel going along, where they say something about building endurance, but you couldn't possibly run for 5 hours, or you could if you were training for an ultra. And there's a lot of endurance that I have from the running, and it definitely is translated over because the bike was slower, but it was completely doable to me. Mm-hmm. So, I just paced the day. I watched my heart rate, and what I noticed is that I can't hold steady watts for significant periods of time, but I still have a lot of power in my legs, and I'm actually curious to see if I actually ride my bike and I sharpen that up, where that leads to. So.
And then the run obviously was pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried a few weeks out from the race because it didn't seem to have any speed, but at the very last minute it really started showing up, and for me running around doing 9, 10 minute miles on flats, on trail, and then slower than that on hills, dropping down into the sevens like right before race was like, whoa, where'd that come from? So I think the run could sharpen up too, but all I needed to do was just close down her gap.
Yeah.
And I was hoping it was sooner than later. I was kind of hoping it was like at the half marathon, 15-mile part, not so early, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And it was cool. I got to run it with her. It wasn't ideal, but I think, she started appreciating it. Getting past the fact that she was angry about her day, and knowing that I was like there with her, and I was definitely driving her, especially as we were getting towards the end. I was, it was, we're starting to get towards sundown, and you could see the sun coming down behind the buildings. And I said, "You can't stop." I said, "You can walk, but you can't stop. You're going to start cooling down, and that's going to make things even worse."
Oh yeah,
so
it got really cold. It was freezing out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
afterwards, I was frozen.
Yeah, we were good. I mean, we came in the dark, but it was right when it really got dark. But when we were running out, like you could see the sun coming down behind the buildings, and I know what that's going to be. And so I was like, you need to keep moving. You can't stop. And so I wouldn't let her stop. I made her walk through it. And I don't know how much time I saved her, but I definitely, herded her in. And then it was funny, like we were coming into the finish line, and I was thinking, oh, will we hold hands, or will we both have our hands over our head, or will we kiss, or whatever? And bitch ran away from me and sprinted.
She was like, "This is my moment, bitch."
She's like,
I don't know this crazy man.
I saw this shadow, and I thought it was that woman that was back there, and I'm like, yeah, that's a likely story. So like I'm all trumped in the back, like, whoa, what happened? And then she ended up in med again.
Oh man.
What with the breathing? Did they give her oxygen or?
I don't know. They always put them in med and they don't let you come in there. But we were in the Monona Terrace, and she started kind of browning out while laying on the floor, and I was like, nah, that's not good. So I actually had to go get med, and they brought over one of those little like 4x4 thingies and carted her off.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, life of an Ironman.
Yeah. You have an inhaler or something?
Her O2, her O2 probably wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Man,
so anyway,
that's tough.
That's a bummer. I mean, I feel for her when when I was watching the splits, I was like, her first set of splits, I was like, this is awesome, this is it, she's doing it. And then as soon as she started slowing down, I'm like, oh man, please don't let that be the asthma. Like it was my very first thought, because she had been talking about that going into the race, and I know that feeling. And when it starts, it panics you, because basically your throat's closing off and your chest is tightening and you're wheezing, and it's really hard to stay positive when you can't breathe. I mean, it's not like it's not.
That's what you call us, the podcast of obvious things.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that came out a lot
suffocating.
More silly than I thought. But I meant like compared to like when you're bonking because of calories, it's a very different sensation, because you're like, I'm going to eat a gel and I'm going to wait 15 minutes and see what happens. But when you can't breathe, you can actually take hits off your inhaler, feel fine for 15 minutes, and then it comes back again. Like it's like this. It's like a shadow that chases you. I don't love it, and I feel for her. Louisville last year was when I found out I had it. It was Coeur d'Alene, I should have known, because I finished that and they were like giving me oxygen in the med, like because I'm hyperventilating and I can't control it. And I'm thinking, it's just because I ran hard. Everybody can't breathe,
Everyone's here. It's a party.
But it's I felt for her, but it's hard, because it's not like something you can truly push through. If you can't breathe, it forces you to moderate that effort. You have to get it to a point where, okay, I can get oxygen in. And then plus you're at the end of a Ironman, so your body does hurt. It's not like you're not hurting. It's a bummer. But
do you run with anything? Like, do you run with an inhaler? Is that a thing?
No, I have a daily inhaler that I use for, it's a, I can't pronounce the word. It's a corticosteroid or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's Delera. I have to take that daily, so 2 puffs in the morning, 2 puffs at night, and then This time of year, I have to take allergy meds because it gets really bad. Like, you can actually hear it. My voice is a little bit scratchy from the allergies. Apparently, it's like peak week right now, which I could have told you. John came home. He's like, the pollen's really high right now. I'm like, yep, I do. Fully aware. And then I have the rescue inhaler for the kind of emergency situations that Vince is talking about.
Like Grand Canyon.
Like the Grand Canyon was a mess. Oh, that was. I was
that
scared.
thing like it was a crack pipe. You're like.
That scared the crap out of me, man. And then, you know what? I don't know if I ever told you. When we came home from the Grand Canyon, I had a month of pain, just pure pain, just like waking up in the morning, coughing at night. It took me a month to get right after that, especially coming back. All the flowering trees were opening up, so I'm like, breathing in all this pollen. I actually had to go to urgent care at one point. It kind of sucks. I'm like, man, this like just, I was saying to my doctor, I'm like, how'd this just happen? She's like, it didn't. You've probably had it for like a decade, and you just managed. I'm like, oh, really? Oh. So, yeah, but I feel like I'm starting to get a handle on it. The allergy meds definitely help. Because if I wasn't taking them right now, I'd probably be just as bad now as I was back in April. So I think that we're figuring it out. And the good news is, like, cold doesn't trigger it for me at all. In the wintertime, I feel great. And then even like the middle of the summer, the heat isn't the problem by itself. It's when there's pollen that seems to be the issue. So yeah, so that's asthma. That's one to grow on, kids.
Well, can we talk about, is there any other romantic stories you got for us, Vince, or is that the end of the story?
I think that's about it.
Is that the end of the Iron Man date?
Yeah. As far as I remember.
Nice.
I think the interesting takeaway too with your race, Vince, is showing that kind of crossover fitness. That you've been running. I mean, yeah, it's not the Ironman of your full potential if you train for it, but I mean, it's a great day, and it really kind of shows how that crossover fitness can carry you through, even if your neck is killing you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like last year, races wrecked me. Javelina destroyed me, and I mean, like physically, yeah. I mean, but I've had an Ironman or even my first 50 or whatever. Like my legs were destroyed. They're just on fire. They hurt so bad, and I don't feel like that this year. Like I feel very strong, and I feel very fit, and I felt like that would carry through. So I wasn't super concerned. Like you guys were like, so did you put your bike together yet? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that this weekend. And then it's coming to do that this weekend. And then it gets down to the wire. And Christine's like, okay, you got to get your bike to Tri-Bike Transport tomorrow. And I'm like, well, I should raise my bars. And I'm in there. And then I'm looking at my bike and I'm like, oh, there's all this other stuff that I need to do. I guess I'll pack all that stuff and take it with me. And I'll do that in Wisconsin. So like my power tap hub was dead. So I had to go run down. Yes, and get some batteries to pull the wheel off and change the batteries. Oh, and then
that's awesome.
And then what was it? I have the new Garmin 920, and it's got that new fancy strap. Well, my Joule 2.0 wouldn't sync to it, and I'm like, oh my god, I need heart rate. That's the only metric that I want here, and it's the one that I can't get, and so. I'm reading up online, and then I talked to the PowerTech guys at the booth, and they were like, oh, you need to update the firmware. So I updated the firmware, and it still wouldn't see it, so I started taking it down to them, and as I was going down there, I could get the hub, I could get the computer to see the serial number on the strap, but it wouldn't read. So I went down there, and those guys were trying to figure it out, and then all of a sudden they were just like, here's a brand new Joule GPS, and they got it set up for me. And it was like, last minute, and it's not an A race for me by any means, but I was like, I got this pre-race stress. I'm like, Jesus, this is, I don't need this. Kind of like that. God, if I do this happen to me, I'm losing my mind with the web, especially protection. I try to go down there early and get all that stuff solved.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so.
Hey Maria, does Vince sound like a robot to you too?
He does. I was trying to. I was trying to determine whether it's mine or not.
I thought it was me.
Like a robot.
You sound like.
Yeah. Something happened.
What happened?
You
Yeah.
sound fuzzy and like a robot.
You sound like a robot.
I sound like a robot.
Yeah.
When
I
you
don't
listen
know.
to this, you'll get it.
I don't. Is it clear?
No, it's
No.
like fuzzy. Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe fiddle with your connection.
Yeah.
Fiddle with your stuff, all right?
I don't know what that means. It's digital. There's no.
I might check the connection, like your headset connection with your computer, or that's plugged in.
Here, I'm gonna disconnect.
Okay. It's gonna crash as he joins. Vince?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, he's still a robot.
Yeah, still a robot.
And we've lost audio completely.
You
Oh,
can't
no,
hear
you,
me?
you can't hear us? Uh-oh.
Hey!
We have a deaf robot.
Vince, Pumpkin, where are you at, Pumpkin?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, he muted us.
Oh, no. We lost him.
We exploded him.
He's
Maybe
turned
he has
into
to
a robot.
reset his speakers.
Nope, we've lost me.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, there you are! We can hear you. We can hear you.
You
We
can hear
can
me?
hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear me. I can't hear you.
Change your input.
I think I'm gonna jump out and jump back in.
Do
He just needs to, oh, there we go.
Okay.
He just needs to, okay, he'll work it out.
Anyways, so
Oh, you just sounded like, you sound great
oh,
now.
it's all his fault. Oh, we can blame it on Vince. This is awesome. So you did 12 hours running.
Yeah. Well, 11 hours and 3 minutes.
11 hours. Oh, man,
They wouldn't let-
slacker.
Yeah.
What's up with
yeah.
that?
It was a 12-hour run, but a 5-mile loop, and, well, they didn't think I'd have enough time to do another loop. So,
Who's they?
the race people.
Oh, this was a race? I thought this was a
Yeah.
training day.
No, it was a race.
How'd it
It was
go?
it went well.
Good.
I guess you want me to talk about it.
Yeah, I want you to talk about it. I want to hear it. I don't
Okay.
run 12 hours. Oh, there
Can
he
you
is.
hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So funny story. So I was trying to get back into this thing, right? And I saw the link, and so I clicked it, and then I thought I was joining the session, but what I was doing was replaying what we already saw or what we already did. And so you guys are like, we can hear you, we can hear it. I'm like, I can hear you too. And you're like, we can hear you, we can hear you. I'm confused. I never realized what it was. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh.
Okay,
that's awesome.
It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I could be a little stupid right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
More
Do I
coffee.
sound
that.
better?
Yeah, you sound
Yeah,
great.
you sound
Okay,
perfect now.
great, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, perfection.
Well, we were just talking about Maria's, I didn't know it was a race, her 12-hour run.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
So,
called labor pain.
yeah. It was on
Oh.
Labor Day.
Yeah, it was Labor Day weekend. So I did this race before in 2010. It's a 5-mile loop, and I did it back in 2010. But when I did it then, I didn't have any intention of doing the 12 hours. I was gonna do 7 loops for 35 miles because I was getting ready for my first 50-miler, which at that time was the Vermont 50. Back.
Oh, I used to live in Vermont. That's a great race.
Yeah. Oh, I love that race. It's
Oh,
really,
yeah. I think
yeah.
I
It's
did
really
that.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. John's done it. John's done it a few times. I did it once. I'd like to go back and do it again. It was good.
Side note, I love Vermont. Vermont's
Oh,
the best
yeah, we're
place.
going there next weekend. I love
Oh.
it. I can't not wait to just run endless miles on dirt roads. I'm pretty
Oh,
excited about
gosh.
it.
Best place on
Yeah,
anyway.
pretty excited. In lots of clothing because
Yes.
Arizona will not be anywhere near as cold as Vermont. So
Yes.
I'll be in I'll be in a parka running down the road in Vermont.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I picked this race because I figured 12 hours-ish of running would be good prep for Javelina. It has pretty mild elevation change. It's like if it were 100 miles, it'd be like slightly more hilly than Javelina. I think it worked out to 450 feet per 5 miles, something like that. So it's like a little hillier than Javelina, but I certainly wouldn't call it a hilly race. It had elevation changes, but not anything crazy. Mostly single track, which was nice. There was actually this one point though where you had to cross the road and there was a guardrail, so they put a little step stool next to it. Of course, most of the people could just like swing their leg over the guardrail. Midget Tank, of course, had to step up the step rail.
You have to climb it.
And I was like relieved it was there because I was like, oh my god, how am I going to get over this guardrail? I'd be like, ugh, like trying to thrust my body. So I just made it a lot easier. But so my whole plan for this race, and this is actually a good segue from Vince's story about pacing the day and watching your heart rate and adjusting your effort, and because I didn't do any of that. So so I picked this race because I thought I am going to execute this 12 hours exactly like I think I'm going to do Javelina. And I thought, you know, if I get to 50 miles, that's great because I think in my head 50 miles was like the magic number. You know how like 20 for a lot of people 20 miles is the magic number for a marathon. For me, I was like if I can run 50 miles, I'll be happy. You know, and then I thought 55 miles would be great, and then I had a super secret goal, which we're not going to talk about because I didn't get there. So and then you know, so my plan was I'm going to execute this and see what happens. You know, I'm going to wear the same clothes I plan to wear. I'm going to use my hydration pack and see how I like that. It was a hot day, which I was pumped, even though the course was mostly shady, which I realized Javelina's not. It was hot. It was like 90, 95, humid as hell. You know, so I was like, good, it's hot. Get a sense of how my stomach's going to work out. So started and I had my heart rate plan, like where I wanted my heart rate to be, and the heart rate was for 100 miles, not for a 12-hour day. You know, yeah. The race started, and immediately my heart rate was like a good 20 beats higher than where I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. You know, like you're excited. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let this settle. I'm not gonna slow down. I'm just gonna let this settle.
How long did that last? Was it like?
So 5 hours later.
Oh gosh.
5 hours later, I'm like, this is obviously not going to settle. This is kind of staying here at my Ironman marathon heart rate. I should probably dial it back now. But like Vince was saying, the best part of it is I felt like strong, like bull. Like every time I came through, John's like, "How do you feel?" I'm like a rocket ship. I feel freaking awesome. My legs felt great, felt super strong. So I ignored my heart rate because of that, because I'm thinking, I feel fine. I don't feel like I'm efforting. I didn't taper into this race, so I wasn't fresh. You know, I didn't come in like all fresh like I'll be for Javelina. So I wasn't, I'm thinking, my heart rate's I'm thinking maybe it's from the allergy medications. I hadn't used my rescue inhaler, because sometimes that'll elevate it, but I didn't use it. So I'm thinking maybe the allergy meds are elevating it. Not worried about it. Not going to worry about the fact that it's like 20 beats higher than I said it should be. I'm just going to let that ride. And I felt great, but then what sort of happened, so I did slow down. By the time I got 5 hours in, about 5 hours in, I slowed down. I'm like, I need to slow down. I cannot run another 7 hours with a marathon level heart rate. This is stupid. I came to that realization, I think, a little too late. I got to about I got done 7 loops, so 35 miles in, and my stomach was like,
oh, you know, it only took that long.
Yeah, I didn't think that was bad, actually. I'm like, that's pretty good. And I had been using the nutrition I've been using in training. Now, keep in mind, in training, my heart rate was a good 15 to 20 beats lower than what it was at this point. That makes a difference with nutrition, apparently. So I felt nauseous, which, you know, again, 35 miles of running, you know, I'm like, this is not uncommon. So I'm just going to take some Tums, have some Coke, skip a feeding, and see what happens. Totally worked. Came back around for the 8th loop. I was like, I feel good again. 8th loop was fine. Everything felt great. 9th loop, and this time the Tums was ineffective. Let's just say, yeah. So puking ensued.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Yuck.
Yeah, puking ensued. But you know, there's this part of me, like, puking is kind of good because sometimes you can puke and then you feel better.
Yeah, you feel amazing. Yeah.
And I did for a little bit, but I had to skip. At that point, I was feeling so crappy. I had to skip so many feedings. I was running low on calories. I'm at the end of this day. So the 9th and 10th loops were really like 10 minutes slower than every other loop before it, which was a huge bummer because I would have gotten I would have definitely gotten 60 miles if the puking.
That's good.
Yeah, if the puking didn't ensue. And I probably, I could have potentially pushed for 60 miles. I could have gone for that 12th lap, but I don't think I would have made it by 12 hours. And at that point,
55?
what's that? I did 55. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I'm impressed. Vincent over there with his liaison is just smirking, but I thought that was impressive.
Yeah. It's all right. I'm not easily satisfied. I'm not. I have. So you started your race report with like, well, I PR'd, but I wish it was better. So I get to do the same thing. I'm allowed to do the same thing.
This group works well together.
Yeah. So I was kind of bummed, and John's like, come on, let's do another one. And I said, well, I'm puking, and here's the big one. And I've already said this on Twitter and elsewhere, but I had to fart, and I thought it was just a fart. But
oh, no. Oh, no.
I totally
come out.
I totally sharted. And,
no.
And I mean, not that was even stopping me, but I was just sort of like, oh my God, I feel like, and the race people are like, you're not going to be able to fit another loop in. Your last 2 loops were over an hour, which they were because I was puking and sharding.
And they didn't. Did they mention the sharding?
No, they didn't know. They were just
you're that somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I came through 55 miles, so I finished at like 11:03. So I would have had to do it in like less than 57 minutes. And if it were earlier in the day and I had been able to eat, that was like a no-brainer. But I just it didn't happen. So the 60 miles didn't happen, which was a disappointment to me.
Well, you're really close, though. That was
Yeah. But leg-wise, I was fine. Like, again, I was fine. Like, the next day, I was sore, but I wasn't destroyed at all. Like, Vince saw me trying to walk after the Grand Canyon. People were averting. Yeah, it was terrible. People were watching me walk. After we did the Grand Canyon, people would watch me walk, and they were averting their eyes because they thought something was wrong with me. Like, they were like, oh, we can't look at that poor girl. She's, something's wrong. So I was not like that at all this time. I was sore, but that was it. So I was pretty happy about that. So I feel like the strength work that I've been doing is working. Going back to Vince's, I needed to pace the day better, and my heart rate was telling me something. And even though pace-wise I was probably fine, like in terms of strength I was fine, my heart rate was telling me that something was amiss. And it was likely because, again, I didn't taper into the race. I was not coming into it fresh. And, it was a hot day, and so that is what it is. That's how it ended. I did not have any asthma problems, which made me very happy. Although I did have a little bit of hyperventilating when I was done, which sometimes happens. Like I feel like your bronchial tubes start to close after you finish, but not during the race. So I was happy about that. So the strength training's working. The trail is a lot of fun. The race director is easily one of the best race directors for a small local race like that. Oh my God, there was I think like 250 people in the race, but not everybody was doing the full 12 hours. Like some people came just to do 50 miles or whatever.
Just 50 miles.
That's the problem.
My Saturday jog.
Yeah. That's the problem is you start looking at these distances and you go, oh, it's only. And then you go and you blast off, and then at the end of it you're like, no, it's 50 miles.
That's crazy.
Yeah. As you're picking yourself off the ground.
Yeah.
So, and that's my problem right now. Is I look at these distances like 50, and I'm like, I could race this. No, I can't.
Yeah. I also like the text conversation Vince and I had after, because I was telling him about what had happened, and he's like, well, why didn't you slow down? Like, what, duh. Like, I said it, and I responded, I said, well, I was trying to win. And he's like, don't try to win Javelina. I'm like, oh, no, God, no, there's like, no way. I'm not that stupid. Am I? No, I'm not. I will not be. My new reassessed goal for Javelina as a consequence of this race is do not shart myself.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I had a follow-up question. Is it okay to continue that thread?
You can continue that thread.
Did you have a change of bottoms?
For after the race?
Oh, like, do you change? I don't know. I've never run that far. Do you bring extra clothes for these sorts of situations?
I did not have extra clothes to race in, but I did have something to change into after the race.
Good. Okay, well, that's good.
Oh, that didn't stop me from going. I was like, it's in there now. What am I gonna do?
What were you wearing? What were you wearing?
I prefer running in like tri shorts. So I was actually in a pair of tri shorts. And it wasn't a lot. It was a shart, not a shit. You know. It was,
okay.
You know.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
The complete honesty here. So I've actually gone back to wearing running shorts. And I was just thinking, if that happened to me, what I would do is I just go behind a tree or something, drop my shorts, and throw a
drop
water
it out. It wasn't like enough to be like drop it out. You know, it was more like.
Oh my God!
All right, this is enough. I think. I think everyone gets the point.
For those of you that are into Ironman, this doesn't happen to Ironman people. So if you think you want to do
it, are you sure, Vince?
It does not happen nearly as much.
And it never, for the record, it has never happened to me before. I think I was just having full gut explosion. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was eating some solid food, which is not, or I was eating primarily solid food, which I'm not now going to be doing at Javelina. I think I'm going to go to rely primarily on liquid nutrition and then supplement with solid food as I feel I need it, which is more of the approach I've taken in previous ultras, but I was, trying to think like, I want to try to eat some real food and maybe I'll feel better and maybe you won't feel bonky, but what happens to me is I puke and I poop. So I'm going to go back to the liquid and then supplement with solid.
Nice.
And I'm going to pay attention to my heart rate. That is my lesson of the day. But I'm happy about this race because I feel like I am definitely plenty strong enough. So I'm just going to keep proceeding there and just adjust my nutrition and my pacing appropriately.
And what was it's called labor pains? And
labor pains,
for those who are, and it's out, where was it held?
It was in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's called, and it's run by Pretzel City. Yeah, and it's held by Pretzel City Sports. That's the race director. They have a bunch of stuff. Like they have like 5K trail runs all the way up to this 12-hour race. Like he does a lot of really cool stuff. If I lived closer, I'd do more of his races because he has a bunch in that area. But I mean, it's like a 2-hour drive for us, so I'm not gonna drive 2 hours for a 5K.
No.
I don't like 5Ks. I would rather run 55 miles and start myself than do a 5K. Like, that is a preference. It's a true preference.
All right.
Yeah, that's a topic changer.
Yeah, so that was amazing. Just on that note, we're running a little low on time. I don't know how much you want to go over. The only thing on the list today we had a attention to detail. If anyone wanted to chime in on that.
Yeah, actually. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Vince.
Well, we had talked about it, and it's just interesting because I think there's a relationship between people who are successful and how much attention to detail that they pay. I think if you become meticulous, that it's going to serve you well. And like both of you, you go into Training Peaks, everything is green. It's exactly how it was. You do it exactly how I described it, and it seems like I see some athletes that like I go into Training Peaks and I have this classic bike workout where I'm pulling these metrics to build Ironman watts. And I go in there and I look at somebody like Maria or Matt, you guys, and what I'll see is this nice, kind of block where the power goes up and it sits across the top. It's really even, and then it drops down. It's like a little building block, and if it's a by 4, by 5, I see these little building blocks going across, and then I see I go into another athlete's profile and I see that I'm not even able to determine where that interval was because they decided to do the workout their own way, or they decided to do it outside. And and you both heard me say that if the bike workout is less than 90 minutes, it should be on the trainer, because you're not gonna get the quality out of it, because you're gonna go leave your neighborhood, and you're going to hit the stop signs and the red lights and all that stuff before you get to your, your good, riding. And, where I live now, a 90-minute workout probably has, maybe 30 minutes of quality because I've got to get my way out of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I just think it benefits the athlete if they, they follow the directions to the letter. If it's, I always want the metrics. I go in there and it's like, where's the heart rate data? Where's the power data? Oh, well, I decided to do this or that. It's like it benefits you to pay attention to that. So that's my point out too.
You made a point. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Maria.
No, go ahead, Matt. Go for it.
I was just gonna say after we talked after Ironman, you were like, there was the one workout where I didn't follow it to a T on and you're like, why did you not do this, Matt?
Yeah, and what was going really hard. We were talking, during the last podcast, I really felt like I was struggling with a lot of things in my head because we were talking about things that I did not want to talk about with Matt before the race. And so I was like having this internal conversation. I was watching you guys on the video. I was trying to read the notes, and it was just too much mental juggling at the same time. And I just felt like Matt was not in the exact place that I wanted him to be before the race. And there was this workout that kind of went south on him, and that kind of put some doubt in his head. And the next big workout, I gave him some targets, and they were kind of softer targets, but I wanted to come up with some numbers for IM, and it was the last long ride. And I said, hey, this is what I want you to hit. And then when I went back in, he soft pedaled the ride because he was more focused on trying to really put together a solid run off of that. And I went back in and I'm like, oh my God, what did you do?
I'm so sorry. I tried.
No, and I know you need to find, it's funny because I need to run 22 miles leading into an Ironman. And even now I would probably, if I was really fixated on doing well in an Ironman, I would want to see those pair of 22 milers at 5 and 3 weeks out. Mm-hmm. And there's needs. We have needs. And for you needed to see, you didn't care about the bike. You were concerned about the run.
Yeah.
And you needed to see that before. So that's fine. I get it. But from my standpoint, it's like I didn't get the data from the one workout that didn't go well. And then I was trying to get another one because I put these things together. It's like I want that threshold workout data, and then I want to see something in that long ride. And maybe I look at that in conjunction with your FTP tests, and and then I put that together. And so that's my side of it, and and your side of it is you got to see what you got to see, and it didn't align at that point. So anyone?
Maria, what's going on?
Yeah, I think when it comes to this general theme of attention to detail, I think Vince is absolutely correct that if you have performance goals, and fully realizing that not everybody doing this has performance-oriented goals, but I'm assuming if you're listening to podcasts about how to train and you're reading books about how to train and you hire a coach, I'm guessing performance is a part of it, right? Like there has to be like a performance piece to it. Even if you're a brand new beginner, your performance concern is finishing, right? But as you progress, right? So I'm guessing that. So this is all of this discussion is about performance, right? So I think when it comes to the training plan, it's particularly if you've hired a coach, you've decided you trust that person. And if you don't, then you need to reassess that relationship or have a talk with that person. But that's separate and apart. But in my experience, I hire Vince because I trusted him, and I just said I'm going to do whatever he says, and it is what it is. And some days I couldn't hit and this isn't about those days. Like sometimes I could get on there and you can't hit the numbers, but you're viciously trying to, right? Like that's a different thing. I correct me if I'm wrong, Vince, but there's days sometimes you get on there, you're tired, whatever, but you're trying, right? There's a clear thing. But I think you have to do what's in your plan, and you have to do it to the best of your ability. And one thing I would say to athletes with coaches is look ahead in the plan. Your coach should be telling you at least like what the week looks like. So look at it on Sunday, read through the workouts, and if something doesn't make sense, ask questions. Like that's why you hired the coach, right? You want to talk to them, you want information from them. If something doesn't make sense, you need to ask them about that, because those workouts, like for me, it's like those workouts are in there for a reason, and they're in order for a reason. Like the Monday workout is the Monday workout. The Wednesday workout goes on Wednesday. And it's not like sometimes, like, it's not like sometimes people don't have to shift, because they do, right?
Yeah.
Work happens, life happens. But I just prefer, like, for the people that I work with, like, talk to me before you go moving things around in Training Peaks for a couple reasons. Like, sometimes things get moved, and I'm like, why did I put it in that order? And then I'm like, oh, they moved it on me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have put that after that. Like, why is that there? So I think even that kind of detail is important. So it's the execution of the individual workouts, it's the execution of the overall plan, and then the other kinds of attention to details are what you're doing outside of training. Like, sleep freaking matters. Sleep matters. It's speed. It's all about speed. Working on transitions matters. You know, a guy that I coached did his first Ironman this weekend. He came out of the water in an hour 3. But there was a guy ahead of him that swam an hour, but his transition was 2.5 minutes slower. So guess what? Now they're 20 seconds apart. You know, so that all these little things add up. And you know, when I first hired Vince, he looked at my old race transitions. He's like, "What are you doing in there? What's happening?" He's like, "Are you baking cookies? Are you like talking to people?" You know, so in working with him, I went from like, you know, I think it like and every Ironman transition is different, right? Like Wisconsin sounds like it's, you know,
it's like a 10-minute one.
You're never going to be 2 minutes coming from the water to the thing.
Yeah,
but you know, but that being said, like I think I went from like a 10-minute T1 to I think at Coeur d'Alene or with Louisville, I wound up with like under 3 minutes. You know, now granted, all the situations are different, but even at Lake Placid, which has a moderately long T1 because you have to run about 800 meters or whatever.
You got to run from the water.
Yeah, I got under 4 minutes there. You know, and my very first time at Lake Placid, I think I did like 12-minute T1. Like,
wow.
like no lie. You know, so that's all free speed. So this is all attention to detail. It all matters. What you put in your mouth matters. Like, you can't eat crap 90% of the time and expect your engine to run the way it's supposed to run. I mean, I'm not saying that pizza doesn't fall in my mouth. It absolutely does. But it can't do that every day. You know, there needs to be. I still remember the body composition talk. You know, poor Vince. I've got to talk to my female athlete about body composition. This is terrible. And he was wonderful. I'm just nuts. But he was right. You know. And also too, the flip side of body composition isn't just like get as light as you can. The flip side is be as light as is optimally strong, you know, and all of this is attention to detail, and I think that they're all important things to be following. You know, in my head I've been thinking since what happened to me with going from like a 13.5 hour Ironman to qualifying for Kona via the roll down. I mean, my email blows up frequently with like, how did you do it and what did you do? And I think sometimes people don't realize how much behind the scenes stuff there is outside of the 15 hours a week to 20 hours a week that you're training. Like, there's so many other things that I had to do to make that happen because I'm not naturally gifted, right? So I had to really be tight with everything. I had to give up alcohol.
Yeah, that's why I have to do that too. It sucks.
Yeah, it does.
I think there's things that are in your control and there's things that aren't in your control. And if 8 hours a week is a stretch for you, you're not going to go to 20 hours a week. But uploading your data into Training Peaks, that's something that's completely in your control. You know, making sure. Well, you say that, but it's like I go in there and I have athletes that have power and heart rate, and I go in there and they don't put either of the data in there, or they can't figure it out. They're like, oh, I'm struggling with this. Call tech support, you know, for your gadget or whatever, you know, and figure out how to get that data up there. You are paying me, and if I don't have anything to analyze, then I'm making free money. And while that's cool, I'm trying to help you. So, you know, and then like Maria's saying, it's like you do have to, you know, you have to sleep. That helps. that's something that's in your control. What you eat, that helps. That's also in your control. The other stuff is going to take time, but you definitely need to figure out where you can shave time off transitions. I have, back in my, faster days, I have some blazing fast transitions.
Yeah.
And I practice everything all the time. So when I'm going to do shoes on the bike, they're always on the trainer. They're always set up. And when I get off the bike, to go into the house to go pee or whatever, I leave them on the bike. So I'm constantly practicing that. So it just becomes second nature.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that are in your control. And then, then speed comes over time just from, consistency. So.
Yeah, I think leaving the shoes on the bike, like just getting them, just doing it every day is really helpful. Oh God, it just makes it so second nature. Because it's everyone's like, oh, I'll leave them on that race day. And then all of a sudden, like, flip under your bike, and you like popping the shoe off, and your bike locks up, and you flip the bike over. And,
did I hear that they let you leave the shoes on the bike at Wisconsin?
Yeah,
now?
they did. Yeah.
That's new, isn't it? That's a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't remember them letting you leave that.
Yeah, what happened was I want to say they started doing this in 2013 because prior to that, like in 2012, you could only do it at World Champs. And then, and I was like, what do you mean I can't, do this? And then I started seeing it at other races, and now I think they've just gone away from, restricting that in general. At Wisconsin, I didn't do it. I actually grabbed my shoes and I ran to my bike because I was at the front, and I was worried, I didn't know where the mount line was, and I was worried about not having my feet in the pedals going down the helix. And you definitely, you make the decision, but know how to do it, and then you can make the decision. Whereas, I remember one year I was doing this race, and this buddy of mine came up, and he's like, hey, this looks like, this transition looks really hard to run in bike shoes. Should I put shoes on the bike? I'm like, have you ever practiced it? And he said, no. And I said, why would you try that now?
Then no, absolutely not. Yeah.
Well, that's how I felt about this one, too, is I do practice with shoes on all the time, but the transition's long, and my feet. I knew my feet. I had swam the day before and had ridden in the cold, and I would just freeze in the water. It's like I knew it was really hard to get my shoes on when my feet were so cold, and I had toe warmers on. So it's just like, I'm not going to deal with the hassle. I'm just going to run with my shoes. And Vince was like, well, you could put them on. It'll be faster. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be faster. I think I'm just going to have to stop and take them off and put them on at the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I think knowing what you can do is really important. Like trying new stuff on race day. Like, oh, it'll be 10 seconds faster is because my shoes are on there, even though I've never tried this before. It's not gonna. It never goes well.
Well, I have this athlete, and he was doing a half Ironman. And the week of the race, he says, hey, I'm thinking about renting race wheels. And I said,
oh, no.
And he's got a set of 808s. And I said, have you ever ridden race wheels before? And he said, no. And I said, it's a little different, if you catch front, if you catch wind on the front, you're gonna feel like you're gonna go down. And I said, you really need to go out there and experience this. And so he said, he came back, he's like, oh, I went on this ride and it was windy, and I kind of see, well, race day, it was really windy, and he said he was scared to death the entire time. And I'm like, yes, this is what I was trying to explain to you. If you're going to do that again, you need to have, I ride with race wheels all the time because I just want it, again, I want it to be, something I experience all the time. I don't want to go into a race, and, as you had a really windy Kona, Maria. And,
I don't even. I've blocked it out. I am traumatized. I've blocked it out.
Oh my God! I remember the first time I came down out of Hawaii. I was terrified because that was probably the windiest year I've ever been there, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to die!" And there was actually a woman in front of me, and the wind just took her, and just slid her out. I was like, "Oh no, we're going." When you're coming out of Hawaii, you're going almost, at least for me, I'm going almost 50 miles an hour. So you don't want to be thinking about a wind catching you like a kite and throwing you to the ground at 50 miles an hour. It's just visuals you don't want.
It is. Anyone listening to this who has not done it and is about to, or whatever, I'm not trying to scare you, but when people say Javi is windy, take what you think is windy. Like take like, oh, I was out on that windy day. It was so windy, and then double it. Like no crap. Like it is. My luck, because I was just like a wet dish rag when I showed up at Kona. Like I am even lucky that I was able to make the bike move because I was so just like whatever, you know. By the time I got to the turnaround at Javi, the wind had actually changed. So I had a headwind going out, and then I had a headwind coming back in. And it was horrifying to me because Vince and my husband John both said, when you're going out on the Queen K, it'll be fine. No word of headwind, no word. But both of them said, when you come back on the Queen K, expect a pretty good headwind. And I'm like, all right, I am prepared for this headwind coming back in. When I was at like mile 20 and I was in this vicious headwind, I'm like, we have a problem. Nobody said anything about vicious headwinds at mile 25. And I'm like, all right, well that just means the wind's different today. It's opposite day. Fine. I'm gonna have a tailwind coming in. I prefer that. That's wonderful. I go climbing up Javi, like Vince said, watching people right in front of you just boop, 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 pop, right over on the side. Like, what just happened? Did they hit something? No, it's the wind. Like, this is insane. Just people getting blown over. I saw people coming down, getting blown over, going up, getting blown over. Because it's like a crazy crosswind. Like, you're leaning to the left. You're like, whatever side you're leaning to, wherever the wind's coming from. You're leaning, and then all of a sudden the wind swirls and then comes from the other direction. So people are like, boom, you know? Like, what the hell? I've never seen anything like it.
It's like
but I get to the...
It's like the wind comes in off the coast, and then it hits that wall that's on your side there, and it comes back and it gets you from the other way. So you feel this strong wind coming from your right side, and you're like, oh, I'm going to lean into it, and then all of a sudden it just like tricks you and like blows you from the left, and you're like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and so I started just watching the people in front of me. Like if it hits them, then I know it's coming to me, you know. But yeah, so when I got to the turnaround and coming back, I'm like, why is the wind still blowing really hard in my face? I don't understand this. Like, I might have had tailwind for, like, 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, well, maybe when I get on the Queen K, it'll, you know, you got to make kind of a turn. I'm like, oh, man. And then I saw Jen, and I'm like, F Javi! I hate this race! F this wind! It's just like, I don't even care. It's like one of my slowest bikes ever. And I was just like, whatever. I'm just here to have fun. But that's wind.
A hard year.
What's that?
I said you guys picked a hard year. That was.
I didn't get to pick nothing.
No, but I think that was supposed to be like one of the hardest years.
But wind-wise, heat-wise, we actually got a bit of a break. But wind-wise, I mean, it was hot, but it wasn't like hot, you know. There was even like cloud cover.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And of course, when I finished, it was nighttime. They tried to give me a glow stick when the sun was still up. It was setting, and I was like, they tried to give me the glow stick, and I said, I did, and I said the sun's still up. He's like, well, you're gonna need it, and I'm like, I don't need it now. I was like, I had total glow stick denial. I'm like, I don't need the glow stick. I will be able to run 13 miles in 10 minutes. It will happen.
They tried to give us those little glow stick things, and I was like, no, we're good, and we were close enough, But I was like, oh my God, it's the glow sticks.
The problem in Kona too is it does get dark earlier. It's not light out till like 7, or it's just barely light. I guess I don't know.
I've always finished in the light, and then probably like by the time I get to pizza, it's like starting to darken up.
Yeah. It doesn't stay light. So that's just what I tell myself to make myself feel better.
It's mid-October, right? You're getting towards the end of the year.
Yeah. But attention to detail, that's how you get to that place.
And we've come back full circle.
There we are.
That is how you get there.
Nice. All right. Well, this has been great, guys. It was enjoyable. Even though it's so early, I had a good time. I don't know about you.
Is this time going to be good for you guys?
Yeah, this works really well for me.
Yeah, this works for me too.
Yeah, this is great. How about, is 9 too late?
Yeah, no, it's perfect for me.
Oh, great.
I'm
Okay.
good with it.
So
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was actually cutting up a theme song, and I was starting off with "Don't Stop Believing," but I was thinking we might get flagged if we post the video because
Did
it's.
you hear that on
copyright.
URP?
No, what?
He had to get rid of his that theme song because he got slammed with copyright.
Okay.
That song that he.
You know what happened? I got a copyright warning for a video that I posted up on YouTube like 3 years ago. When we were in Kona and we were at the finish. Remember when we went down at midnight?
Yeah.
So what happened was I thought, oh well, because the Wanda group just bought them, they didn't want the Kona video up there, but it wasn't that. It was the Miley Cyrus song they were playing at Ironman at the finish.
No way.
Yeah, it said WMG, and I was thinking, oh, that's the Wanda Media Group or whatever. No, it's Warner Music Group. So I got that, and I was thinking, oh, I don't want to use "Don't Stop Believing" because I'd hate it for our videos to get flagged or like ads to be put in them or whatever. So I got another one. I'll have probably early next week. I'll have a theme song for you.
Cool.
This is what sucks though about the digital rights management, right? Like. Technically, sampling small bits should be considered fair use because you're using it in a transformative way. You're not using a substantive amount of it, but you use even like 5 notes in a sequence, and now you're flagged. It's
I think the "Don't Stop Believing" song that I have, I could get away with it because I've cut it up enough. I mean, you know what it is. I mean, there's no mistaking what it is. And maybe what I should do is like throw it up to YouTube and see if it picks it up, because a lot of times if you throw something up on YouTube, it'll tell you immediately, well, this is sounds like this other song.
Right.
Right. But I want to have a backup, and I definitely would hate for this podcast that's going to go millions and millions and millions of people.
It's going to be huge. We are going to be
because it don't stop.
By the way,
all our fans will be so sad.
Yeah, I totally love the name Ballless Sports. Did you put that, Matt? Was that you?
That was me, yeah. Well, that was actually, I can't take credit for that. Jackie thought that one up. That was pretty soft.
Ballless Sports. I was like, that's pretty good.
Oh my god.
We were deciding between a hyphen or not. There's a lot of L's in there, so we threw a hyphen in there.
Yeah. That's funny. I like it.
All right.
All right, cool. So 2 weeks from now, that's our
2 weeks
next.
from now.
Yeah, that works.
All right.
Hang on. When is
Wait, yeah, I was gonna say we might need to look at that. Hold on.
Okay.
Where's the